Welcome. My name is Jack Rome, and on behalf of the Center for Awakening, I'm glad to welcome you to Meet the Speaker, a live series with speakers from the upcoming uh, 3-day online immersive conference, Awaken Stillness, The End of Dreaming, taking place from November 8th to 10th. This series is designed to give you a brief taste of the direct experience that you can expect from each session during the conference. Jenny Beal is a spiritual untangler, considering openness to examining and abandoning all belief systems to be the principal prerequisite for the understanding of our true nature. In Jenny's view, aligned with the direct path teachings, the spiritual path has no beginning or end, nor is there any distinction between spiritual life and life in the world, as we call it. When asked a question, she temporarily becomes a teacher. Otherwise, she remains a student and enjoyer of all that is. So, Jenny's conference session is titled Discovering the Reality of the Illusory World. Her session will explore the questions: what is reality? How can we distinguish between the real and the unreal? Is there more than one reality? And does understanding the ultimate reality of ourselves and the world lead to happiness? This session will appeal particularly to those who have had a glimpse of their true nature, but maybe now feel stuck. So, Jenny, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. I have a few questions for you for our little taste, but I want to begin, and I would really benefit from hearing this too. Could you talk about what the direct path teaching means?
Yes. Um, Most spiritual paths are really start with improving the body mind. So there's a kind of a assumption that there's something that needs to be improved. The direct path goes as directly as possible for an individual to the understanding of what they really are. So it does vary from one individual to another. And the main thing that blocks awakening is the beliefs that people hold. And often they don't even realize that something is a belief, but it's something that's actually blocking their understanding. So this is it's a path of understanding, and it's a path of debunking beliefs for which you have no evidence. That's really what a belief
Mhm.
is. It's something you hold to be true, but you actually have no conclusive evidence about it.
Mm. Yeah, so we carry these beliefs that we may not even be aware that we're carrying, and
Yes.
we don't really have any conclusive evidence for them. If I'm to start that process, what does the beginning of that process look like of sort of untangling and even examining the beliefs that I didn't realize I'm holding?
Right. Well, the first belief that many people have, but in fact, I think a lot of the conference attendees will have already got past. But the first belief really is the belief that what I am is this limited body and mind. And that's the first one that we debunk, and it's very simple to debunk that one, because we are that which is aware of our body and our mind. We're aware of the thoughts that go on in our mind. We're aware of the sense perceptions that pass through our minds. We're aware of our body. We can see at least parts of our body, and we have bodily sensations which give us an awareness of body. So we can't really be what we are aware of. And if you think about what is meant by I, what you mean when you say I, you're really referring to something which is very much more permanent than a body and a mind. Now, the mind is always changing. Where there's a flow of thoughts and sense perceptions, bodily sensations going on all the time. It's always changing. But the body also is always changing. You know, it's taking in air, it's taking in food. It's totally interconnected with the universe. And the universe is always changing, and our body is always changing. But there's something about there's something that we all feel within us has has never changed. Is always the same from the moment when we were tiny babies up to the moment now. And so that's really what we point people to right at the very beginning of the path.
Mm. You know, when I was looking over your session and what you're going to cover in the session, I'm particularly struck by the the idea or the statement of the reality of the illusory world, and also the seeing that there's with the direct path teaching, you come to maybe acknowledge or be aware of the fact that there's no meaningful distinction between the the non-dual reality and the reality, so to speak, of the world, the illusory world we live in. What do you mean by the reality of the illusory world, particularly for a lot of us that might say, no, the world's illusory, so it's not real, and I need
Right,
to, you
yes.
know what I mean? So
I do.
could you, yeah.
It's actually it's a reference to a quote from a Zen master from a very long time ago, called Huang Po. And what he said was that people neglect the reality of the illusory world. And what he was talking about was that we're always concerned with that which is changing, everything around us which is changing, and we give very little attention or significance to the unchanging. But actually, the unchanging is what we are. Now, some people do say that the world is totally illusory, but that's not really what the non-dual path actually says. There's different ways of looking at it. There are some non-dual teachers who take an idealist position, and in that case, they feel that the world is really made out of mind. There's nothing outside of mind. If they're talking about their individual mind, usually they won't be, but if they were, then they would be solipsists. But more usually they're talking about some concept of a universal mind. But in other words, everything is made out of thought, in a way. We can't actually show that's the case. We really have no evidence that's the case. There's another position, which is the realist position, which is also consistent with non-duality, and that really says, well, yes, we perceive two realms. There's a realm of mind, and there's the realm of physical objects. And the realist position is rather nice because it fits very beautifully with science. And so science explores the physical world, and they have explored it. And what's so very beautiful is that when you look deep and deep and deep and deep into what scientists have previously called matter, you find that it kind of all evaporates, and you're just left with what's called a quantum fields, and quantum fields are really like probability fields, and little particles, packets of energy will come into them, go out of them, appear, disappear, all the time. So you feel, by going through that scientific path, you feel that ultimately everything is a field of probability or field of possibility. And now, if you look at mind, on the other hand, the other realm, then um, mind is really just a flow of bodily sensations, sense perceptions, thoughts, images. And if we ask ourselves, well, what are those? What are those occurring in? And they're occurring in a kind of mind space. And isn't that terribly similar to the physical space? So you can come to a kind of feeling understanding that maybe those two spaces are one, or certainly that they could be one. And so the reality of the physical world, the reality of the mental world is the same reality. And then you come to the conclusion there is only one reality.
Wow. Doesn't matter which way you go.
It doesn't matter which way you go.
And it just the only thing it it seems to end up with is a little bit of laughter about it, you know?
Yes, yes. Mm, mm.
Um, it's so beautiful to hear you describe the way that the the path you could say, or the exploration of science and of the material world, of I guess the reality of this so-called illusory world, takes you to the same truth.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit and answering my questions. I could certainly ask you more, but I also want to save our exploration for when we get to have the session. One last question, though, I have for you that I'm curious how you would answer this, if there's a way to answer this, is what would you say is the way that the people, those of us attending your session, should do or maybe shouldn't do to prepare for it?
I don't think there's necessarily anything to do in advance to prepare, but it's really about coming in openness and not being afraid to ask questions. This path is about questioning. And when people first come, most people who come to the direct path, they come from another progressive path. It might be a Course in Miracles, it might be Buddhism, it might be traditional Advaita Vedanta. All of those are sort of starting points for people. And they come from there. And initially, if you say, well, have you got any questions? They will just want to tell you about how they are awakened and they've realized this and everything is absolutely wonderful. But there's something missing there. There's still something missing. And they're not asking about something missing. So, but there will be, because this path is a never-ending path. There is always something more to explore. So really to say to people, well, just just ask your questions. Anything, any issue where you find it difficult to apply your understanding, the understanding from your awakening experience in your ordinary life, any difficulties there, anything that doesn't seem to gel, ask about it. Anything that you don't really understand or you feel isn't quite right about the idea of non-duality itself, whether it is just a dream or whether there is something real, ask about that. So just be prepared to ask, because the majority of the session will be question and answer.
Hmm, hmm. Be prepared to ask. Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Jenny, so much for your time today and for letting us experience a bit of a taste of what the session will be like. And to anybody that's, watching now or later, we hope that you'll join us at Awaken in Stillness at the conference from November 8th to 10th. for more direct experience teaching, more opportunities just for us to ask questions and to be in that dialogue space. You can register for free at centerforowakening.org, and we hope to see you there.